When God removes his hand, the first thing the devil takes is everything that has blood in it. So Job cannot run to the altar and put a blood sacrifice on the altar. Therefore, he cannot keep the hedge up. Are you listening? Because once God would have seen the sacrificial blood, God would have been required by his law and the duty of his righteousness to be moved by the sacrificial offering. So, you know, we talk about Job as a faith book. Oh, it certainly is, but it's more than that. It's a book that talks about the power of blood. Now, let's keep going here. All of a sudden, we read a verse, and I want to read this to you. Oh, wow. Okay? Job, verse 20, arose, rent his mantle, shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground and worshipped, and said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, naked I shall return hither. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Now, we know that it was Satan that took it, but he didn't know that at the time. Whoever wrote the book of Job tells us the story about it. Now, in Job chapter 2, you've got to watch this very carefully. There's a second wave of attack. And there was a day the sons of God came before the throne of God, and Satan came with them. Here we go again. Now, we don't know how much time, this is important, is between chapter 1 and chapter 2. It doesn't tell you that. It just says now we have a second wave. So is it possible that here comes another assault on Job on Rosh Hashanah when the accuser of the brethren is standing before the throne of God? Now, watch what happens here. Where you been, Satan, going to and fro on the earth, walking up and down it, you've been considered my servant Job. Sure, he says. But Satan says, skin for skin, all a man has he'll give for his life. Put now forth your hand now, touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, he is in thy hand. Now again, as long as the hand of God's on Job, Satan can't touch him. When God moves his hand, now Satan's hand can move. You see what I'm saying? Now watch what happens. Satan went forth from the Lord, smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot to his crown. He took a potsherd and began to scrape himself withal, sat down among the ashes. Now, in every translation, English translation of the Bible practically, here's what it says. His wife said to him, Dost thou retain thy integrity? Curse God and die. Now, I'm going to give you a nugget. You go to any Hebrew Bible, and you read what she actually said, and here's what she said. Do you still retain your integrity? Bless God and die. The Hebrew word, we checked it out during this trip, in a Hebrew Bible, is the word for bless and not the word for curse. There's a whole other Hebrew word for curse. So here's what she said. Just bless God and die. She's saying, thank Him for what He's done, but now it's bad and it ain't going to get better for you, so you might as well die because you're as low as you get. Then Job answers her. Is that not good? Yeah. Because, here's what he says. You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we receive good at the hand of God and not receive evil? And all this Job didn't sin with his lips. So here's what he's saying. You're saying to me, just bless God for what He's done and then die in this condition? He's saying, wait a minute, woman. I blessed Him when it was good. I'll bless Him when it's bad too. So she was trying to say bless Him for the good, but don't bless Him for what's going on now. That's the point. Just bless God and now die. So she's not looking into a future that's blessed. He is saying, God's taken care of me in the past, and I'm just going to keep blessing Him anyhow. Isn't that amazing? Woo! Well, that's powerful. Now, here's the part that really got to me. Several years ago, I was preaching on the book of Job at a church, and for 7 days and nights, he didn't say anything. He sat in his ash heap. He's got sores all over his body. Then in chapter 3, verse 1, after this, opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. Now look at verse 1, he curses his day. He talks about, actually, if you keep reading this, he starts talking about, let him curse the day that I was born, because it didn't shut up the doors of my mother's womb. Why didn't I die from the womb? All of a sudden in chapter 3, Job is not cursing God. You know what he's doing? He's cursing himself. He's saying, I wish I would have never been born. I wish I would have died. It would have been better for me never to see the light of day. Now watch this down here. All of a sudden, we come to the end of chapter 3, and Job just goes, for the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I was afraid of has come unto me. Now, I have read that for years, and I thought, this is how it was preached when I was a young man. It was preached that, okay, Job confessed something wrong. Somewhere he said something he shouldn't say, and now he's saying, the thing which I feared with my confessions come upon me. And some people point back to the fact that he kept putting the blood offering on the altar because he was afraid his children had cursed God. Okay? Well, there's no record of his children cursing God, but all of a sudden he starts cursing his I wish I hadn't been born. It would have been better for me to die. And then he stops and says, now the very thing which was cursing, that I was afraid of, has come unto me. In other words, I'm opening my stupid mouth right now and cursing myself, which is the very thing I didn't want my kids to do. You understand what I'm saying? So it really does not imply anywhere in the text that he lost his confession as far as that's concerned. But he's saying to himself, the very thing that I tried to protect from happening to my kids, I'm turning around, opening my mouth and saying stupid stuff. So there is an element of that. But you got to understand, he never sinned against God. He never sinned with his mouth. It says it twice in the book of Job. All right? Now, in the middle of the trial of losing everything he had, just imagine losing your home, 10 children, attending their funerals, having sores breaking out in your body that are absolutely unbearable. All of a sudden, God has a way in the middle of the worst trial you go through of encouraging you. In Job, Job chapter 23, he says, behold, I go forward, but he's not there, and backward I cannot perceive him. On the left hand where he doth work. He says, I'm living on the left hand of God. I'm not on the right hand. I'm not in the favor. I'm in the middle of the trial. There's the verse that has the word left hand on it, on the left hand of the Lord. But in the middle of the trial, let me read this verse to you. This verse says, surely there's a vein for the silver and a place for gold where they refine it. Iron is taken out of the earth, brass is molten out of the stones. He setteth an end to darkness and searcheth out all perfection, the stones of darkness and the shadow of death. Now, right in the middle of the trial, he says, surely there's a vein of silver. Here's the imagery he's giving you. He's in the earth in a dark mine. He can't see anything around him. But he says, if I keep digging in this darkness long enough, I'm going to hit a vein of silver. Now, most of the folks who watch Manna-Fest, you know that silver is the metal that represents redemption. So when you hear about silver, it means redemption. So Job is like saying, I know it's dark where I am. I know I'm down here searching, but you cannot find gold on the surface of the earth. You have to dig to find gold. You've got to dig to find silver. You've got to dig to find precious stones. So he says, if I can hold on long enough, if I could just hold on long, I'm talking to somebody. If I can hold on long enough, I'm going to hit a vein of redemption. I'm going to hit a vein of silver. And then he goes on. I love this part down here. He says, because here's the key. There's a path that no fowl knows, where the vulture's eye has not seen, where the lion's whelp have not trodden it, nor the fierce lion have passed by it. So he's saying, there is a path. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to find it, where that roaring lion isn't going to get me. There's a path where that old vulture, you know, vultures can be compared to evil spirits. He's not going to get me. Now, if you go into the Bible, and we're going to go toward the end of the book of Job and show you two nuggets here. You know, Job's friends come along. He's got 3 friends that weren't real friends, actually. They're telling him, you know, you got hidden sin in your life, and that's why God did it, and God's trying to bring you down because you've got pride in your life, and you had so much money you didn't know what to do with, and did get. So Job has to answer all their crazy questions, all right? So finally, God himself gets tired of it. And God shows up in the whirlwind in 2 things. These are the 2 strangest passages in the Bible. When Manna-Fest is over, don't do this till it's done. Go to Job chapter 40 and 41, especially, well, 39, 40, and 41. There's a creature in chapter 40 called Behemoth. Then there's something called Leviathan in chapter 41. This Leviathan is like a sea monster. The Bible even says it's a sea monster, a serpent with 7 heads in Isaiah. And so you get to reading this thing, you get to looking at this, okay, and you're saying to yourself, what is God doing here describing this weird thing that's over the children of pride, that no man can defeat it with natural weapons, all right? This is, Leviathan has always in the Bible been a picture of Lucifer or Satan, the fallen angel, right? Why does God come down and tell Job about Leviathan? Here's the reason why. Because the Bible said in the law of Moses, if the thief be found, he has to give back double. So, Job did not know who the thief was, but God did. Now, watch what happens after God reveals Leviathan in chapter 41. You come over here to 42, and God says to Job's friends, I didn't like the way you talked to my man Job. So here's what you're going to do. Woo! Take you 7 bulls, 7 rams, go to my servant Job, offer a burnt offering that my servant Job shall pray for you, and I'll accept him, lest I deal with you after your folly. So, Job has no blood. All his animals are stolen. But God then tells these 3 friends that's been hanging around him, you go get some animals. The ram and the bull were the high priest's offering in the temple, right? He says, go build an altar, put some blood on that altar. When the blood got on the altar, Job interceded for the friends and forgave his friends for what they said. And then we read this. Then the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends and blessed him with twice as much as he had before. And then they started bringing gold and money back to him. See, in other words, Satan said to